Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm Dr. Barr, I'm your host, and this is going to be another great conversation here. We got a doozy tonight. We are going to talk about the conversation that wraps around what is the best diet for all human beings. And certainly there's a lot of controversy here. We're going to specifically talk about things like a vegan diet and also a carnivore diet. I'll probably squeeze in things like a ketogenic diet. And as I do this, I have an answer for you. I'm going to kind of lead up to it. So I'm not going to do too much of a deep dive into the different sciences of all the different nutrients that you may or may not get from each one. Yet we're going to take a step back and look at this from a different perspective. In that perspective is this: how is it that so many people for so long have been on vegetarian diets, and we see a lot of good, healthy people, even to this day? I know a lot of healthy vegetarians, and then flip that over, totally polarized diet, completely opposite. How is that we see, especially recently, so many people having incredible results with a carnivore diet? And I can speak to both of these because in clinic, I use both of them. So we'll dive into all those in just a moment. Before we get there, a couple quick updates for you. I continue to get conversations, emails, texts, whatnot, and wondering if they can work with me out of state or even locally. How can they do that? Very simple. Reach out to our studio. It's balance30a.com. And from there, you can email us. Bounce to 30A is at 30A.com. And if you'd like to work with me, easy breezy, we'll send out some forms, but we can also send out any lab requisites that you may need. So whatever you may need, absolutely. Is my schedule a little backed up at times? It may be. So go ahead and make that call quick sooner than later, and we'll find a way to make sure that we can connect and help you level up your health. All right. So let's get back in here. So this is a little bit of a controversial conversation. What I don't want people to do is, as a result of there being different information and one saying one thing, one saying almost the polar opposite. What I'd prefer is that people don't end up on the sidelines and doing nothing. And that's what confusion often does. So that's why we're having this conversation today. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and I'm going to give you that answer of what do we do? What makes both of these diets potentially, is there something in common? And what makes these diets potentially good for both of them, potentially good? And I'll start by saying this: clinically, I've used them all. I've used vegetarian diets, I've used ketogenic diets, and I've used modified carnivore diets. And I use them as a tool to help people level up their health. Now, depending where you are with your body, you might need different things. So I'll give you an example. If a female comes in, or male, but a typical case will be a female who has candida and urinary tract infection, there's always going to be a dietary change here. The simplest thing, do a 30-day modified carnivore, and by itself, even without the herbs and the different vitamins we use, most likely you're going to get through that 100%. How do we know that? We've done that several, literally probably hundreds of times in the past, where in the event that same individual stays on a carbohydrate diet, even if it's good vegetables, but they're eating sweet potatoes and they're eating things that are converting to sugars real quickly, and you're feeding the candida, continue to feed the bacteria, likelihood you're not going to get over it, and then eventually have to go to more extremes like using drugs or medications or antibiotics that have other side effects. So there's that, just one example of where we can use a tool like a modified carnivore diet to help people overcome certain health conditions. When it comes to a vegan diet, are there situations that I do think these are very good as well? Yes. In fact, during our cleanse, I always put people on, well, not always, but most of the time I'll put people on a 10-day vegetarian diet. And in that phase, it's really all about cleansing things out of the body. And we're using the fiber, we're using the vegetables to really work as antioxidants and drag things out of the body. Now, do I think long term either one of those are good for us? And the most honest answer I can give you is that I haven't seen great success with long-term vegetarian diets. And I think there's a nuance here. So let me explain this to you before anyone gets mad at me. I believe this is what I see clinically, that there's very few people who practice a vegan or a vegetarian diet to the degree of a vegan and vegetarian diet could be beneficial. What I typically see in clinic is that vegans or vegetarians, I'm not knocking anyone, this is just what I've experienced over these 30 years, is that vegans and vegetarians typically really go on a no meat diet. So they might go down to the local restaurant and still get a plate of nachos with some vegan cheese and whatnot. So it's not necessarily healthy food. They're not just eating fruits and vegetables. They're just really eating a not meat diet. And as a result of it, they're not necessarily achieving a lot of health. And the carnivores, are there some mistakes made there? Sure is. Especially when I was doing a fair amount of keto, and I absolutely love the ketogenic diet and its impact as a tool for the human body and health. Maybe the biggest challenge ketogenic is keeping track of it. It's a little bit has a little bit more instructions that go with it, so it's not quite as simplistic in the efforts to do it. The efforts are even hard because you got to kind of track the amount of grams and whatnot that you have of fats and proteins and carbohydrates. But with keto, there became a term called dirty keto. Well, I see the same thing with carnivore, dirty carnivore. They're eating crap from McDonald's. They're eating, fried foods, and just because, or just foods that still are not healthy for us, but because they are meat or animal based, they're putting them there into their body. So with that being said, this is leaning me toward the conversation to help you understand why they all work and what I believe is the common link of why these different programs, these different tools can be so effective for humans. And this is it. The number one reason that they all work, especially in the short term, is that they are all massive elimination diets. And what does that mean when I say elimination diet? Meaning that it is eliminating all of the junk. So whether you're on a vegetarian diet or a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet, all of them, when done properly, there's a couple commonalities here. One, you're only eating 100% organic food. There's no there might be coffee, but there's no alcohol and cakes and cookies and crackers, no crumbs, and none of that stuff. All of that is being eliminated. So all of the pro-inflammatory food, all of the foods that down-regulating human health, all the poisons, all the toxins, all the genetically modified foods, all of those diets, we pull them out. And what that means to us, and this is where I think this is why I want to do this, because I think this makes it super exciting. Listen, if you want to get healthy, it's crystal clear the path of being healthy to get your body to work better, to get rid of inflammation, to get rid of joint pain and down-regulate things like diabetes and heart disease. You get clean. You eliminate the junk. As a practitioner, I don't know of any time that any amount of poison, any amount of toxins, any amount of genetically modified foods make us healthier. So if we recognize that, we can then say, okay, so what do I need to do to move forward? And from that question right there, that's where the next part is experiment and have experience. There's too many people right now watching and paying attention to social media, which, by the way, I love. I love the fact that there's so many voices right now encouraging and promoting health. Yes, they may be different, but I love the fact that so many people now have a voice, men and women out there talking about things that are working for them or for their clients, or for their patients. And most of them are super well intended. Do I think sometimes maybe they take things a little bit to the extreme, that they're saying that red meat's killing us and causing high cholesterol? I think that's a little extreme. I think it opens up our eyes to at least ask questions. Do I think it's a little extreme when they say that kale is poisonous for us and there's too many oxalates and it's down-regulating your thyroid? I think that might be a little extreme, and I think that's what those are. But here's the good news. They got our attention. And now we could ask good questions and find out what the happy medium is and what is the thing that you can do to continue to level up your health. And I'll tell you, the hard part is not going to be to pick the diet. It's not going to pick the nutrients, because here's how simple it is. So remember, health is simple. The act of becoming healthy is not always easy, though. So we already know with what I just said here, and I don't think anyone's going to argue me, put real things in your body, you're going to be better off. If you've listened to this podcast before, you've heard me have the conversation about the best diet for human beings is follow God's garden, which means that if it comes from a root, a plant, a tree, if it walks in the garden, swims in the sea, eat it, bring it into your body. We know these things are utilizable for human nutrition and to make better cells. Now, what's going to work best for you? You're going to know that when you and your practitioner or by yourself stick to a certain program and have the experience. As a practitioner, I've had the opportunity to bring hundreds of people through ketogenic diets and had amazing results. Was it the same for everybody? No. I've had the opportunity to bring people through, being a couple of weeks vegan or vegetarian. Did we get amazing results? Absolutely. Did it actually backfire for some people? It absolutely did. Was it because the vegetables were bad? No, I never found that it was because of the vegetables. But often, particular types of diets and foods can expose weaknesses that we have as individuals. So sometimes if you don't eat a lot of vegetables, all of a sudden you start eating them and you start, man, every time I eat broccoli, it doesn't feel good. Broccoli must be bad. No, broccoli is fantastic for us. Yet your gut might not be prepared to handle it. So because so many people have disruptions and unhealthy guts and weakened guts, our scope of nutrition starts to narrow down. So that's a big consideration as you move forward. There's also one of the reasons I believe that the carnivore diet has been so suitable for so many people, because you eliminate so many different food sources, and your primary focus, the one that I'm usually offering people, is a modified carnivore, where it's animal based, a little bit of fruit, and a little bit of healthy cheeses. So we make it very, very simple in concept to understand, but it's still a massive elimination diet, and that is where a big bulk of the results are coming from. The nuances of proteins, is that a real conversation? Absolutely. We don't need to do a deep dive, but I will mention it here. If you're on a carnivore diet, quite frankly, you're getting the best source of bioavailable proteins possible. There's 9 amino acids that we need to get those amino acids into our body, and we want those amino acids to be readily available for us to make them into building blocks and into proteins into our body. So animal meats, hands down, those are the single best for us. Can you get your protein from vegetable sources? You can. It's a little bit more difficult. Yes. Are they as bioavailable? No, they are not. Would you have to consume more? Probably. I would tell you that if you are going to be 100% vegan or vegetarian, to really do a deep dive and understand what makes a complete protein, things like peas can be a complete protein, yet the amount that you're going to need to consume is much higher than most people think to keep up with the ratios that our bodies need. So are there little things here and there that might be better off if you did it a different way, like you did carnivore or you did vegetarian? Absolutely. But can you overcome those by being an intelligent consumer? Absolutely. Here is what I believe is the biggest challenge when it comes to nutrition. So hear me closely when I say this. And it is not with food, what foods are good, what program you should follow. And again, whatever program we're going to follow, I like the idea of hunkering down and being relatively extreme about something for a period of time. So you go all in and have the full all in experience. And then from there, you develop habits and patterns that are sustainable through your life. If they're not sustainable, you'll probably be on a yo-yo diet. So therefore, finding things that you can lean into, maybe it becomes a Mediterranean program where you're eating lots of oils and lots of fruits and lots of vegetables and some animal proteins, or maybe you like carnivore. So whatever one, you have to have the experience of going all in, not trying it. Not, I did that for a day or two, going all in and see how your body responds. But here's the challenge. The challenge is always going to lie in between your ears, not on your plate. It is always, almost always, going to be more of a challenge emotionally for most people to be able to find the discipline to continue on with one program, to find that thing that serves them the best. And the discipline being willing to let go of the things, of the emotions associated with foods. I got asked a question the other day. I thought it was kind of funny. We were talking nutrition. Most places I go, that ends up happening. So I was with family, and one of my family members said, "What happens in your house when someone has a birthday? Do you still celebrate the birthday? Do you have birthday cake?" So we absolutely celebrate the birthday, but we don't do birthday cake anymore. And what was interesting, the look they gave me was almost as if I was missing. They were sad for me. That was like I was missing out. And I promise you, I'm not missing out on cake. I do not want it in my life. And for many of you who are on your health journey, you no longer want the poisons that were once readily available for you and you were seeking them. Things like alcohol and sugar and candy and birthday cakes. But that's part of the journey that each one of us needs to be on. And I also know this, that when we're on that journey, we're not ready to make that next move. We defend our place strongly on how maybe birthday cake every now and then is good for us to live a little bit, or whatever phrase or terminology you're going to use. And really what you're doing in those moments is you're justifying it for yourself. And that's okay. We all do that. But hopefully, as you continue to decide what is the most important for you in your life, your health, your vitality, your longevity, that you allow yourself permission to go all in and not kind of sort of. We know that things like alcohol is poison. We know that sugar is poison. I've yet to find any clinical situation where I was looking to help someone level up their health that a little bit of toxins, a little bit of poisons, or a little bit of genetically modified organisms or foods were going to benefit someone's health. And I know that sounds silly. Of course, they're not going to die, but that's reality. So I still think the biggest challenge for everyone listening to this is to find out where you are emotionally with your food. Are you emotionally attached to how your foods make you feel on the front end? And do you forget about the back end? So, for example, you have a beer, you feel good, you loosen up a little bit, maybe a glass of wine in the evening, but you don't sleep as good on the back end. You don't wake up feeling as energized. So, with that all being said, a quick wrap up here today. Do I think that there are different opportunities? There's wins in all of the different situations, whether it become a ketogenic diet, a carnivore diet, or a vegetarian diet. Do I think there can be wins there? I do. Where do I think the common link is and why there's success in all of those, especially on the short end? It's because they're all elimination diets. That is it in a nutshell. What are we eliminating? All the poisons, all the toxins, all the non-foods. And again, yes, should we be eating organic foods every day? Absolutely, positively. Do I think the greatest challenge is the one that is happening in between your ears in our emotional attachments? I do. I don't think the challenge is what's on our plate. I think that's part of it, but there's so many opportunities and knowledge and information out there now. So that is readily available. But what's going on in between the ears is probably the bigger challenge. But knowing you, listening to podcasts like this and putting yourself into situations where you're looking to learn and to level up, I know that you too will be able to overcome these. I say it all the time. In my past, I was always addicted to carbohydrates and sugars, loved them, ate them all the time. I don't eat them anymore. My body doesn't like them. It rejects them. I have no problem saying no to those, but it was a journey. So I expect that if you're not there yet, as long as you continue to allow yourself to be honest to yourself, that you will find that success as well. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast and another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing it out. Keep spreading love. We'll see you in the next episode.